For years, in neighborhoods and communities across the country, parents and families have come together to build a better life for our future, quietly but powerfully, building pockets of parent power across the nation, working together to fight for safer neighborhoods, to end violence in our streets, and stop mass shootings in our classrooms, standing up to fight for economic justice and good-paying jobs, so that parents and families could actually be parents and families, instead of simply fighting for survival without a safe and affordable place to live, and not knowing if there'd be enough grocery money to last until payday, and stopping the endless cycle of generational institutional racism and a blind allegiance to an education system that maintains an addiction to a status quo that pushed out, underserved, and failed us as children ourselves, and expects us to sacrifice our own babies to protect their system because those who have always done it this way are too comfortable. Mothers, fathers, tias, abuelas, grandpas, grandmas, nanas, and papas, fighting for our seat at the table. The National Parents Union was born out of a desire to connect together to ensure that no parent or family will ever have to stand alone again, that no group of parents will ever have to go up against the most powerful political special interest groups in the nation without other groups having their back, that together we could stand united as the critical missing piece that's keeping America from its true promise of delivering on the dream of a bright future for every single child. And that no one will ever speak for us, for our communities, our families, or our children, but instead, we would speak for ourselves. Our kids, our voice, the National Parents Union. For years.
Hello, everybody. You are watching Know Your Rights. Welcome to Know Your Rights. If you can hear me or see me, let me know, because I am having a problem seeing myself on here. I think that will probably fix the problem. But if you can't see me, let me know in the chat comment field. I was having some technical difficulties already. Sorry about having to do the show late. But as you can see, I probably am still having some technical difficulties. So if you can hear me, let me know. Okay. Let's see. I'm going to try to fix it because I don't think you guys can see or hear me. 1 second. Let's see. All right. I don't know what's going on there. I think that you can probably hear and see me now. I'm going to try to fix that. I was having some issues earlier. It fixed itself. See? Ask and you will receive. Hello, everybody. This is Christina with the National Parents Union. I am the Director of Policy and Legislation here on Thursday for another Know Your Rights episode. So if you are watching, you're in the right place at the right time. And hopefully I can work out some of my streaming kinks. I don't know quite what's going on, but I'll figure that out later. All right. So today, as you can see, according to the information that I sent out previously about the show, we're going to be going over the presidential actions in the legislative process and understanding more about school safety, right? Like, what does that all mean? You hear all of this talk going on, especially during a crisis or, just horrible situations that we see across the nation. And you can kind of get lost in the lingo, right? Around policies and initiatives and campaigns and rallies and what does the law actually say? And so we really want to take the time to break that information down in a way that you can understand, you can be informed and you can know how to move forward in your advocacy or your activism, instead of just like that knee-jerk reaction to like, I need to get involved in something. Like, we have to be making informed decisions about everything that we do. Things that, we advocate for need to be highly informed. You need to know everything that's involved with that. And that is why I do this show about knowing your rights, so that you are fully informed. All right, so let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and bring up my screen. As you're watching, if you have any comments, any questions, any feedback, please feel free to drop that in the comment field. I will try to do my very best to get to all of it before the end of the show. If for whatever reason that I can't, then I will look at the comments, and usually what I'll do is I'll go back, because we do this across 3 different platforms: YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. What I'll do is I'll go back and I will review those comments or questions and try to respond to each one. So I don't want you to think that I did not get to your question or see your comment. And I appreciate you watching. Please share this information out. All right, let's go to. Thank you guys for your patience with my technological issues here. I'm starting to get better at it. Let's see. So last time we were going over the okay, wait a minute, not ready yet. Coming back, y'all. I'm coming back. Share the screen. Woo. Let's see. Oh, I just lost it. See how that happens? You get it. You can see the nice background though while I'm trying to bring it back up. Okay, there it is. Okay, I'm gonna make it bigger.
Once both chambers of Congress have each agreed to the bill, it is enrolled. That is, prepared in its final official form and then presented to the president. Beginning at midnight on the closing day of presentment, the president has 10 days, excluding Sundays, to sign or veto the bill. If the bill is signed in that 10-day period, it becomes law. If the president declines to either sign or veto, that is, he does not act on it in any way, then it becomes law without his signature, except when Congress is adjourned under certain circumstances. If the president vetoes the bill, it is returned to the congressional chamber in which it originated. That chamber may attempt to override the president's veto, though a successful override vote requires the support of 2/3 of those voting. If the vote is successful, the other chamber then decides whether or not to attempt its own override vote. Here as well, a successful override vote requires 2/3 of the voting members to agree. Only if both chambers vote to override does the bill become law, notwithstanding the president's veto. A successful override of a presidential veto is rare. Bills that are ultimately enacted are delivered to the office of the Federal Register at the National Archives, assigned a public law number, and included in the next edition of the United States Statutes at Large.
Now, all of that information, again, I provided that website where you can go and view this information, but I'm going to walk you through that, right? A lot of times it takes multiple attempts to look at something, to process it, and just continue to learn and research and inquire. So I'm going to take you back to that site where you can see the legislative process, right? Those steps within the legislative process. And then the presidential actions that are also within the president's ability in the legislative process. I'm going to go right to that site right now as I drop this information in the chat. And so here we go. It's always a fun time when I get to share my screen. I'll tell you that. Let's see. Okay. Here it is right here. All right. So as you can see, we have this process that is described for you. Here's the overview. We went through that last week. Okay. Just as a recap. Here's a section that you can look at that I didn't talk about. All of these 2 through 8, I did not talk about. You just looked at 9, right? And so I kind of gave you a little bit of assignment last time we were together to take the time to go through this introduction and referral of bill section. What does it mean, right? Because if I went through every single thing on this page, we could literally spend weeks alone just talking about this process. What does it mean? And so I want you to familiarize yourself with what is happening with the congressional legislative process. Section 3, committee considerations, really short videos. I like that it actually is in video format because not everybody is going to have the ability to stop and just read. And so this is literally something that you can listen to in your car ride. You know, for you 10,000 step walkers a day, I try to get 10,000. I'm kind of averaging out at 8,000. I'm working on it, y'all. So, you know, be rooting for me when you're getting your 10 to 12,000 steps in. Thank you. For you that like to go walk or maybe to the gym and you want just more information to learn about these processes, put your earbuds in, right? And you know, turn to this and have this audio, right? That there's a lot that I listen to an audio version on, and I just make a mental note in my mind. If I don't have something to write on, I mentioned this last time, and I'm going to keep talking about that, right? To go and look up XYZ, whatever it may be. That I hear and it draws my attention. Sometimes it's definitions, y'all. I could be listening to this and I'm like, you know, let me look up the word etymology. Like, I want to know if this word, and maybe that's just for etymology nerds. I don't know, but I do it. I want to look up this word and see if they're using it in the proper context, right? Because I don't like getting tricked by words. So that's what I do. Now, we just went through the presidential actions. I want to you to be mindful of 2 words that are highlighted right here. I highlighted them on my view of it that I just showed you with that little snippet. And they're also highlighted here. So what you're going to do is you're going to click on them. And I already clicked on them, so I have the glossary up. What it does is it takes you to this glossary. Now, I want you to look at this glossary, right? There are a lot of legislative terms here. Okay. So let me see. I want to make sure that you guys are looking at the glossary. So we're going to stop that and let's go to here. Okay. I'm going to stop screen sharing and I'm just going to reshare because I'm not really sure. And let me put this in the chat too, like I said. All right. Comments. All right, so I put the legislative process, presidential action, the little video snippet that you just watched, and the words that went along with it. I just put that link to that in the chat. You can, you know, basically go and view these things. Like I said, again, it's very important that you understand. Yes, Yahida, parents need to have these glossaries on deck. It is so helpful to send email to address our concerns. You know, I have found that in meetings, when there are a lot of abbreviations and a lot of terms and a lot of acronyms that are being used, it's almost like a foreign language to the parents and the families that are just trying to be there to support their child and get what they need, right? And you are absolutely right when talking about parents need to have these glossaries. I've provided parents that were going to be attending a meeting, like, here is a place where you can find the most commonly used acronyms, abbreviations, whatever, right? And I've also advocated for school admin and school staff to provide or either use a different word, right? You can't assume that the parents understand. They're not in that school environment where those terms are being used. And so in order to communicate effectively, we need to understand what's being said, and we need to be clear and concise about what we're saying. And so you're absolutely correct. Those glossaries do need to be provided, or like we're doing right now, we do our own research. We study, we inquire, we research again, right? And so you hear a lot of terminology that may be confusing, and I want to demystify that. And I think just the word etymology is what helps me to demystify some of the political jargon, as Yahida says right here. So let's go to the glossary. All right. As you can see, you have this glossary of terms, right? And it tells you right here, brief explanations of legislative terms used throughout congress.gov, right? A lot of these will also be used by elected representatives, right? Who are involved in these processes, right? Right here. Here's the help center. You can do a lot. Like I said, every single website that you look at is going to be comprehensive. Make sure that you're going to a credible source of information when you're looking for your information, right? I think that we talked about last time, bicameral. There is a bicameral legislator. That literally means two chambers. Chambers also in etymology is camera, right? And so you have that in the legislative body, having two houses, a House of Representatives and a Senate comprising of the U.S. Congress. Some of you might say, why do I need to know that? Well, if you're living wherever you're at, you need to understand the way that the legislative body, those who create laws in a sense, right, is ruling and governing you. There's nowhere that you can go where you don't need to understand the way that you are being governed and the way that society is being governed. Okay? What are those rules? What are those regulations? What are those codes? What are those policies? What are those laws? Are they harmful or beneficial to my community, right? That's why a lot of us advocate. Some things could be great. Other things are not so great. They're harmful, right? And so you see that we have that. So we're going to go to the term that we saw in the actual document, glossary term, and that was enrolled. Okay. So sorry, y'all, it takes me a minute sometimes. I don't have okay, here it is right here. Enrolled measure, right? So when they highlighted the word enrolled, that's a word that you want to be looking for, right? It was highlighted to draw your attention. So you want to be looking in this glossary. Enrolled measure means a final official copy of a measure as passed in identical form by both chambers and then printed on parchment for presentation to the president, right? Let's look at the other word that was highlighted, which is veto. We're talking about presidential actions. What does the president have the ability to do when it comes to the legislative process? So here you have presidential disapproval of a bill or joint resolution. If you don't understand what that means, joint resolution, you see what I'm saying? You can literally read one definition and be also inquiring about words within that definition. That's why every day you have to chunk a little bit at a time what you're going to learn so you can be totally informed about the things that are happening to and around you and supposed to be for you, right? We the people, for the people. And so here you see presidential disapproval of a bill or joint resolution presented to him for enactment into law. If a president vetoes a bill, it can become law only if the House and Senate separately vote by 2/3, telling you some rules there, to override the veto. Okay. A less common form of presidential veto, a pocket veto, occurs if Congress has adjourned without the possibility of returning and the president does not sign the measure within a required 10-day, excluding Sundays, period. Okay. Now, what we know is that these processes don't always work the way that they are stated, right? They don't. And so you have to understand that there are times when actions call for, more urgent actions. We can look at the processes and say this is what is supposed to happen, but oftentimes you're not able to just make a prediction. That's the best term that I can use. Is not as predictable and as stable as we would like to think that they are. And so you have to be paying attention, right? You have to be inquiring, looking at that website that I just came from and that I put in a chat. I'm going to put those definition links in the chat right now. Here's the one for enrolled. And I will put the one for veto in there. Right? And so you have to be paying attention. And that website that I just took you to is one where you can do more interactive tracking of, different things. And so you definitely want to check it out. I took you to one last time. If you didn't get that information, you can look at last week's episode of Know Your Rights, and you will be able to find out how to track certain bills. We're going to go there again today, though, but I want you to, not miss information or resources that I might not be sharing in this chat. So if you have any thoughts or questions about the legislative process, I shared that information last week. All right. So let's go back to this information about the presidential actions, right? Like what gives the president the ability and the right, guarantee, promise, whatever you want to call it, right? The authority to do this, okay? What gives the president the authority to do this? And so we are going to go to this tab. Well, that didn't work out. Let me try to take it off and try it again. Okay. Let's see. Let's go. Okay. I think I know what happened, y'all. Go to, it's showing up blank on my end. And so, like I said, I've been having, here it is. I can see it now. I've been having some technical difficulties, but, we're working it out. So, as you can see right here, presidential vetoes. Okay. And this was last updated in January. You want to make sure that you are paying attention to the dates on stuff, right? Like, I mean, if you go to the Library of Congress, okay, let's just talk about that for a minute because I actually do visit it often. If you go to the Library of Congress, you should expect for the stuff to be old, y'all. Okay. Some of it's newer. Okay, no problem. But what I'm saying is that look and see when it's been updated. Look and see when it's been updated. if you don't, you might have information because of the nature of legislation and policies and practices and amendments and addendums and referendum, whatever it may be, right? Look and see if that information is up to date. And if it's not, y'all, in Facebook land, it says that an error occurred and you guys didn't get the message. So I will send that again. Sorry. Okay. Got to do it twice. All right. And I'm going to zoom in on this because it is a little bit small right here. So let me go over to that tab and zoom on in. Okay. Here you have it. This website is from the History, Art, and Archives, United States House of Representatives. Okay. And as you can see, I always say, like, browse around, see what it is, right? See what you can find. Okay. Here's a oral history, education, records and research, right? There is a lot collated in each site. Each site is very comprehensive, and there's something just for everyone. I continue to say that there is something for everyone. All right, so back to presidential vetoes. Last updated January 1st, 2021. Article 1, Section 7 of the U.S. Constitution, talking about United States, y'all, grants the president the authority to veto legislation passed by Congress. Okay, we just saw that as a part of the presidential actions in the legislative process. This authority is one of the most significant tools the president can employ to prevent the passage of legislation. Okay, let's read that again. This authority is one of the most significant tools the president can employ to prevent the passage of legislation. Even the threat of a veto can bring about changes in the content of legislation long before the bill is ever presented to the president. Okay, that's important to know. You know, we talk about the power of veto. You know, a lot of power to veto. You need to find out if your governors have that power, right? What is their power to veto? Okay. And this is important information, even if we're looking at it not on the congressional level, right? But at the state level, right? Who has the power to veto? And what does that mean? And where was that power, that authority granted to them? What was it? The state's constitution? You should know your state's constitution, right? And so we see that Article 1, Section 7 of the U.S. Constitution grants the president the authority to veto legislation passed by Congress. Now, the Constitution provides the president 10 days, excluding Sundays, which we just saw on the other website, right? So we have two sources of information that are giving the same timeline. So, you know, that's one thing that you want to look at and make sure too, that even if you get a timeline, that it is congruent with other information that you see. And it's not like some radical change in the time or whatever. So you can make sure that you're looking at credible information. Excluding Sundays, let's go back to this. To act on legislation, or the legislation automatically becomes law. Okay, so we just went through the legislative process in 2 weeks, including the presidential actions, of how that legislation moves through Congress and to become law. Okay, there are two types of vetoes: the regular veto and the pocket veto. Now let's talk about that. The regular veto is a qualified negative veto. The president returns the unsigned legislation to the originating House of Congress within a 10-day period, usually within a memorandum I'm sorry, y'all, it's kind of small for me, with the memorandum of disapproval or a veto message. Congress can override the president's decision if it musters the necessary 2/3 vote. That's why it's important to talk to your congressman, is so that if these kinds of situations come up, what their decision is going to be, what it is about, how important it is to your region, your district, your municipality, your community, right, your state, right, how important it is, and that's why it's important to stay in contact with your legislator. So here's a little note. President George Washington issued the first regular veto on April 5th, 1792. And for all this other information, you can definitely go back and search this. But because we're talking about the president's ability to veto, and we like to give out awards of achievement here. I got something special for y'all, okay? I got something special for y'all. All right, let's go on and give it up to Franklin D. Roosevelt, who had the most vetoes of any president, right? One reason why FDR may have the most vetoes is because of the economic recession of 1929. Y'all can research that if you want to more about why maybe the 32nd U.S. president, Franklin D. Roosevelt, may have had the most vetoes. But let's look in comparison to all of the vetoes throughout presidents' terms, who had the second most. Let's look at whether there were pocket vetoes or regular vetoes, and let's look at how many were overturned. Okay, so let's go to that right now. That's exciting. Good job on the vetoes. That was interesting for me to really look at as I was doing this and putting this together, really looking at all of those vetoes over time, which is what I'm going to show you right now. Okay, here we go. So let's see. I'm going to have to zoom in here, y'all. 1 second. I don't know why I have to keep resetting. If you have any technology folks out there, go ahead and tell me how I can permanently fix the setting to zoom in. All right, so as you can see right here is the United States Senate site, right? Putting that in the chat. You can be looking at this if you want as I am discussing it. That way you can be checking facts yourself. I definitely encourage for you to check the veto count facts yourself, right? As you can see, every single name that is highlighted here, you can also click on to get more information, okay? To get more information. And again, talking about websites, this one is a very comprehensive site that you can find other information on. It's not just one thing. So you can look, and if you, right here, and look at it, you can even make contact, right? You can look at qualifications and terms of service, facts and milestones, committees, membership and assignments, hearings and meetings. I'm not going to go through all of this today, but I want you to work on your research so that you can find what it is that you're interested in, get the proper information, know where to go, how to find this information that you can take, and then search for more information if you choose to, or just continue to just go through everything on one site. And once you master that information, or once you have that how to navigate and utilize the tools on that one, then you go to another one, and that's what you do. And you just take it piece by piece every day. Include your kids in your research so that they will have it modeled to them on how to use these types of things. My children will be the first to tell you that they've probably listened to, I don't know, we probably can't even count how many presidential speeches they've listened to, past ones, whatever, how many things that we've listened to as far as audible readings of documents, right? And other things that we just, they've been privy to because they're in the same environment, even when they probably are not kind of wanting to get that information, they are getting that information. And it's very helpful. It's very helpful. I actually talked to my daughter's history teacher, and she was like, Anaya has this stuff down, like it's almost like easy she wakes up and she has this information, and so I know that she'll do great in her college classes. And I was just like, well, great, that's good, because it's a part of the information that she has access to with me directing policy and legislation. So I'm constantly looking at documents and doing some studies. But here we're back to the vetoes, and as you can see, the coinciding Congresses, right now we are 117th Congress. Okay, so we're looking at the time that they were presidents, right? Here you can see to the right, now I'm going to minimize it just a little bit. You can see to the right, there are the regular vetoes. You see the pocket total, and like I said, Franklin D. Roosevelt got the Veto Achievement Award, and the overrides, okay? Regular, pocket, total, overrides, right? And I just want to show you really quick. Let's just pick a name, okay? Let's go to Lyndon B. Johnson, okay? Now, you can look at, it says right here, he vetoed 30 bills, right? 90th Congress, second session, and it shows you all that information. And you can actually look at messages, okay? So this is very important, right? Because a lot of people can say, oh, well, they did it for this reason or they did it for that reason. But without you looking at the reasons for yourself, you're not going to know, okay? You're not going to know. So I if the person's not alive and they're not actually saying it themselves, I'd like to look at historical documents and be able to gather that information on my own. That way I can form my own opinion without someone telling me this is what happened, right? Like I want to look at letters, right? And see them for myself. As much information as possible that has been made available to us. I'm sure that there's some information that we might not have access to, right? But it's important to access what you can, look across sources, find that information, and do the research and inquiry for yourself. So I'm going to put that veto. Actually, I did put that veto count in there. So like I said, FDR, he was the one that got the 635 total vetoes, more than any president. And there's summation about that, that it's because of, what happened prior to his presidency, right? Then he had to, do a lot to get things back in order. I don't know. We can look at some documents and form our own opinion. So that's exactly what we're about to do, is go to the documents. Let me go in a little bit before I go to this document. All right, so I already zoomed that in. Okay, so when I was saying before that, you want to go to credible sites, well, here's one. You see Santa Barbara, right? Has these documents. There's a lot of college libraries that have documents that you can look at in archives and different things that they have that'll provide you information that you can view online when you're doing your research. And, we can look and see, this is a letter, okay, from Franklin D. Roosevelt about the veto of the bonus bill, okay? So if that's the closest you're going to get to someone using their own words, right? Like without being able to tell us otherwise, is look at the letters, okay? As you can see, again, here is a comprehensive website. You can definitely go to check it out on your own. Simple searches of archives. I know this information. It's like, well, why do I need to know that? Well, you do need to know this information, because it doesn't matter whether you like the government or not. Okay, that's not what this show is here to tell you about your like or dislike for government officials and processes. The fact is that you live under the rulership, leadership, whatever you want to call it, authority of a government, no matter where you're at. Okay. So understanding that government and knowing how to engage is better than not any day of the week. Okay. So here you have, we don't have to go through this whole thing, but I'm just going to start it out May 22nd, 1935. Okay. Mr. Speaker, members of the House of Representatives, right? And it's going to start out with a paragraph. 2 days ago, a number of gentlemen from the House of Representatives called upon me and with complete propriety presented their reasons for asking me to approve the House of Representatives bill, providing for the immediate payment of adjusted service certificates. In the same spirit of courtesy, I am returning this bill today to the House of Representatives. So you can look at this and see like the tone and just the way in which president's word, this is a large document that you can just take your time if you want, if you're interested in that. And as you can see down here, this message was delivered as an address to a joint session of Congress, and it gives you more information. So that's definitely worth checking out. And we're going to go to, I'm going to put that in the chat. So you can use that as a source of information. All right. There you go. Telling you, I'm going to make political scientists out of all of you by the time I'm done with this session today. All right. And then let's go to the next document, which we can also use as a source of information. All right. Here we go. Right. So the last one was from 1935, May 22nd, 1935. This one is February 24th, 1944, right? And you can see, again, we used this site before to find the most veto count. So here it is, another part of the site where it offers, some historical highlights. Again, I told you, these sites are very comprehensive. You can find a lot of information that has been collated for you, so you don't have to go around unless you want to, like I said, check references, check across multiple sources, see if the message is similar, congruent. You don't want to be finding something and saying, well, that didn't sound like everything that I've read about this person. So when you happen upon something like that, check that out, right? I'm not saying that it didn't happen, right? If it doesn't sound on cue or on message, it might have been, there's some context behind it, some background information behind it that you need to understand. And so I definitely encourage you to be a researcher in that type of way. All right. And so we can see right here that this was Robert Dalton of North Carolina, served 21 terms. Okay, so on this date, talk about vetoes, y'all. The House vetoed 299 to 95 to override President Franklin D. Roosevelt's veto. Okay, that's what I'm telling you. Understand what it is they're talking about. We just went through presidential actions in the legislative process, defined the president's ability to veto. But here is more information that would definitely help you to be able to understand, right? Of 1943. So here is the HR, right? This is the bill number. So you got to go and look it up. The Revenue Act of 1943 and whatever, corresponds to that. And the way that you can start is by highlighting this, plus press copy or search for it on Google. Okay. This is a response about the reason why Roosevelt rejected the bill. Okay. And it talks about the committees that were involved. Okay. And so you can see these debates within various sections of government. And it's interesting just to note them and to understand what was going on and how those things work. And so I hope that that is useful, and that you will be able to do the research, find a site that is, that's just go to that one, be like, yep, that's my jam right there, right there. That's where I'm going to do my research. That's where I'm going to do my study. That's where I'm going to start. It looks interesting to me. It's not just history is continuing. And I'm talking about past history. This is a continued way that government functions in the U.S. Okay, whether you like the Constitution or not, whether you like components of it, right? How, the way that we bring forth policy changes and impact decision-making processes, and look at laws that are unjust, and how do we, disrupt those types of things, is by actually engaging in it. You don't want to take this information secondhand. It's not going to be helpful. And it just doesn't serve the purpose that we need it to serve in producing results that we know are key. So let's recap on the presidential actions in the legislative process, and then we will move over to the school safety. What does it all mean, right? What does it all mean? Okay. And more of what I'm going to do with the school safety, what does it all mean, is give you guys some assignments, and some homework that you can do to do more research so that you can make informed decisions around your advocacy for your children. Okay, so here we are. And remember, a bicameral legislator, I don't know what, it's okay. You guys could see that I have pictures, and I don't know how to fix that. Let's see, full screen. Okay, here we go, right here, fixed. Well, not really, because now I can't see y'all. So I'll just talk in on what's on the screen, and then I'll come back. A bicameral legislator is a legislative body. You see that in the left-hand corner, right? I'm recapping what bicameral means, okay? At the top of the image that says 3 branches of U.S. government, right? You can see the Constitution, which is often referred to the supreme law of the land. Call it what you want, but that's just what it's called, right? We refer to things the way that they're called. If you feel like it's not supreme, hey, you can make an argument for that however you want. Go ahead, write an op-ed, do a video, about why it's not supreme. At least you'll be engaging in the discussion, and helping people to understand. All right. A bicameral legislator is a legislative body made up of 2, which means bi, chambers. Camera, that word, I told you in etymology, is that's what it means. It's, of or pertaining to a chamber. 1762 from medieval Latin camera, a chamber, public office, treasury, and classical Latin, a vaulted room. Okay. It's important to understand the meaning of words. All right. It is distinguished from a unicameral legislator, in which all members of the legislature belong to and vote in one house. Okay. So again, this isn't a monarchy. This isn't a unicameral legislator. It is a bicameral legislator. And as you can see really quick, going to where it said the image is 3 branches of government, you see the legislative, executive, judicial. Okay. I barely touched on the legislative branch making laws in the legislative process, which you can see to the right, reviewing the process. Okay. Starting with the introduction, ending with the presidential actions. We talked about presidential actions, the ability to veto being a part of that, okay? The executive carries out the laws and the judicial interprets the laws. Now, what I need you guys to understand about embedded separations of powers is that each branch of government has incentive to fiercely guard and protect its own power. I'm going to say that again. Each branch of government has built-in incentives, especially from the separation of powers, the Constitution. If you guys want to know more about that, more about what does that mean, checks and balances, separation of powers, go back to the winter boot camp advocacy training videos, and I covered this in one of those sessions. Those are all available on our Facebook page, so you can understand the built-in incentive into the Constitution for each branch to fiercely guard and protect its own power. What does that mean for we the people? Okay. I don't really have time to cover that today, but it's something that is vital and you need to know. So have winter celebration in the summer, and go and look at the winter boot camp advocacy training on that. Now, as you can see, the Investopedia was the best definition for me. You might find another definition of bicameral government better for you. So I put that there. A bicameral system is a government style with two separate divisions with the legislative branch of government. The U.S. bicameral system is divided into the House of Representatives and the Senate. The majority of internal governments use a unicameral system with roughly a 60-40 split between unicameral and bicameral. Okay. Each house of the legislative branch has differing powers to ensure that there are checks and balances within the system. Okay. I'm going to repeat that. Each house of the legislative branch has differing powers to ensure that there are checks and balances within the system. Right. A lot of people say, well, those checks and balances and separation of powers are not working the way that you believe they should. Well, that's fine if that's your opinion, but you need to go and see the way that they're intended to function before you make that fully formed opinion. And like I said, each branch has built-in incentive granted by the Constitution, separation of powers, checks and balances. Some people say that the Federalist Papers didn't quite mean it like that. Whatever. It's the way that it functions in our government today. Okay. How did we arrive there from the Federalist Papers to the Constitution to now what we have, and what are those incentives to fiercely guard and protect those powers? Checks and balances, what we call them. Separation of powers. The more populous House of Representatives branch has less stringent requirements for members when it comes to age and citizenship length compared to the Senate. All right. Now, I don't want to move on to the next subject without reminding you that as I'm doing this, and even later, if you have questions, please reach out to me. If you need more information, I just received a question, right? What should parents do if they need more information or have a question? That is a great question. That's a great question. Thank you for that question. What they should do is reach out to your local MPU delegate today. Why do I say today? Because you know what? We get bogged down and busy, and in our minds as we're watching something, we think like, we're going to reach out. I'm going to do it. But procrastination will become your biggest enemy. So do it as you're thinking about it, or as soon as you can, right? Like if you're driving and you're listening to the message, no, don't. I want you to be safe, right? Or like I said, if you're using this time on a walk, right, to listen to and learn, right? As soon as you get back, just say, I'm going to reach out to my delegate. You need help? Reach out to your delegate. We're here so that you don't have to go at this alone, okay? So the way that you find that information is by going to nationalparentsunion.org. That's where you go. Or another way that you can find out who is your delegate, right? Who is the delegate in your state that is, or, organizer for your region. You can send a message via our Twitter page, our Instagram page, or our Facebook page to find out who that person is and how they can help, or how you can get involved, and what that will look like for you. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing this one. I'm going to press escape. How about that? That always works, right? Control, two things that'll always work: Control Alt Delete and escape. Unless your keys are stuck, then I can't help you out. All right, so take a deep breath. I know that's a lot, and I'm sharing a lot of information today. Very useful, relevant information. If you want more information or need help sorting through this information, reach out to National Parents Union delegate. Find out who it is by going to nationalparentsunion.org or hit us up in our DMs, and it will definitely be able to point you in the right direction. We have a policy committee that is always at work, here to provide you with the on-time, relevant, useful information that you need, and we are more than willing to get that information. But also, I want you to be paying attention when you go to nationalparentsunion.org to look at those toolkits, right? Look at those toolkits. Some of those toolkits might answer some of your questions. See what those offerings are. There are videos and live sessions that are all throughout the week on our pages, right? We have Looped In with Maritza. We have My Child, My Voice with Wendy, right? And those are great resources as well, available for you, the viewers, to be able to tap in and understand what is going on in the space of advocacy, activism, K-12 education, children and families, everything that's relevant to you. All right, so we're going to go on to our next segment, and this is something that is going to be very touchy to a lot of people about what is going on with school safety, right? Like, what in the heck is going on with school safety, right? A lot of people, think about this all year. Some people notice it when it's, a situation, a very devastating one. And while we have compassion and deep sympathy and mourning for the things that have taken place in the slaughter of innocent children and grandmas and grocery stores, right? And we have to maintain our advocacy, activism, and involvement during those times where decisions are being made, because they're going to be made regardless of if you think it's the right time or not. Okay, I want you to understand that these decisions that may impact you and your livelihood and your family and your children at school are going to be made regardless of if you believe it's the right time or not. Okay, and so it's better to lean in on these processes and just decisions and be involved. All right, so let's go to this resource right here. All right, so you have schoolsafety.gov, right? I'm going to be dropping that in the chat. Okay. So I don't know if y'all know or not, but there are several departments involved in safety measures that are utilized to empower and provide, school districts with information, right? There is not one blanket national law that spans across states to say, here is, the school safety law. Okay. Just so you know, right? It's not quite that simple, even though we would like it to be, but it doesn't work exactly like that. Okay. So that's information that you need to know when you're advocating, right? Which department is involved in these processes, in the research, in the compiling of information, and the guidance, and the directives, right? Because a lot of times we just think about, we're involved in K-12 education, and so it's all about the U.S. Department of Education, but it's not. It's not. There are other departments that offer guidance as well, and some of them you see listed here. Okay, some of them have oversight, right? I know that the U.S. Department of Justice has oversight with regards to Civil Rights Act and some of the components of the Civil Rights Act of 1964. Okay. Health and Human Services is the place where if you feel like your medical rights, that's the best way I can put it, right? Social services rights, whatever you want to call it, have been violated. You can go to their website and look at what they have the ability to do, right? And so it's just good to know and to look up each site, each section of government that's listed, and find out what it is that they do and why they're involved, right? The Department of Homeland Security, right? We know the U.S. Department of Ed, right? U.S. Department of Justice and the Department of Health and Human Services, okay? So when you have time, I want you to go to this website. I also put it in the chat so that you'll be informed about what it is. Now, this, as you can see, the dates, right? The dates. There's a final report, okay? So we know that between 20 and 22, there was a lot of guidance and a lot of other stuff that was happening. And so you want to make sure that you have the most up-to-date information. And what they have done is to share actionable recommendations to keep school communities safe, help to protect to schools to prevent, protect, mitigate, respond to, and recover from a range of school safety threats, hazards, and emergency situations. Here you can see that there's tools, resources, and topics that you might want to take the time to look at, okay? This is the site that is managed and maintained an official website of the United States government. What you need to know, okay? So if you need to find those departments, that's what you need to know. All right. Now, stop sharing. There are some current bills that you should also know about, okay? So let's bring that up. Let's see. I don't know if I can zoom in on this. So let me remove this and yeah, full screen. All right. So here is your homework, okay? There is a bill that was introduced. See it right here? The S means Senate, okay? 2125, counseling not criminalizing in schools, okay? Corresponding House, 4011, counseling not criminalizing in schools. You can see through the tracker where they're at, okay? Same thing I showed y'all about the Crown Act. You can go and you can look. You need to look on both, because sometimes we hear like, oh, it passed in the House, and then you think it's done, but it's not, right? You need to find out what is going on in the Senate and the House, okay? Pay attention to that. Don't think because something just passed through one, it's a done deal. No, we saw through the legislative process, right? We saw through the legislative process that this second week of going through the legislative process with now presidential actions, that just because something was introduced, that's just the beginning, okay? That's just the beginning. Here's another one, S858. If you put S858 in your Google search bar, you will be able to find, it'll take you to this Keeping All Students Safe Act. Let's go look at it, right? Let's go look at it. I am going to type in S1858 into my Google search. Okay. And let me bring it up. I didn't bring the screen up. Sorry, y'all. All right, let me bring up the screen. Stop sharing this. Remove. All right. Here's the Google search. Here's the Google search. All right. You see that it's right there. I typed S1858 in the Google search. There it is. Okay. I didn't do anything fancy. All I did was say, hey, I got a number right here for the bill. I'm very interested in knowing what it says. 117th Congress. I mentioned that earlier when I showed you the veto chart, right? And look, it takes you right there. Now, it's up to you once you get there to do more, right? Find out, you can click on that, see who the sponsors are, Keeping All Students Safe Act. Last action, it shows you right here, right? 5/26/2021. You can then go down here, look at co-sponsors, committees, related bills. If I go to related bills, it's going to take me to the House of Representatives bill that you saw listed on that nifty graphic, right? This bill prohibits the use of seclusion and limits the use of physical restraints in schools and Head Start programs that receive federal funding, right? This is important. If you want, you can sign up for the tracker. That's what I do. I want to track the bills. I want to know what is going on, right? I want to know what part of the process, the legislative process they're in, and maybe even reach out. I would suggest you can reach out to the sponsor's office, right? If this is something that you're interested in advocating behind, you would reach out to the sponsor's office and say, hey, thank you for introducing the bill. I support. Let me know of other community members that support, right? That way we can join together and just add more support, okay? You can also see the co-sponsors, right? Shows you the states, okay? So it's very important that you understand how to use these processes, okay? I'm going to stop screen sharing. We're almost done here, y'all. All right. Now, again, make it make sense. That's what I said. Make it make sense. Piecing it all together relies on you, the rights holding citizen. Okay. You see these things here. You see where they're at according to the tracker. You see that you can look it up, Protecting Our Students in Schools, Act of 2021. We're in 2022. These are relevant for right now. Okay. And they were relevant in 2021. You can look up the numbers and continue to advocate for things that make sense, okay? Nobody wants their child restrained and secluded and harmed at school. Yes, I will drop the link in the chat. I just saw that message. Let me get this. I'm going to drop the link in the chat for the Keeping All Students Safe. I'm going to also drop the link in the chat for the other ones. And then if you go to, you're welcome. Here you go. Okay, there it is coming to you guys. Senate Bill 1858. Okay, coming directly to you. I'm going to put in all of them that I showed you how to do it, right? You go and you look up related bills to find the bill for the House of Representatives, because right now I'm just going to take the time to just put the Senate ones in there. So I'm going to put S 2029. All right. Which is the, hold on one second. Protecting Our Students in School. Okay. There you go. And the next one, look at related bills to find the HR corresponding one. And then the next one is 2125. Gonna put that one in. And if one of them or all of them interest you, track it, reach out, find out where it's at, who's supporting, how can collective advocacy and activism, form a campaign, whatever that may look like for you, right? To get involved at whatever level. I always say that it's all of the small steps and all of the things. A lot of people want to go big or go home, right? But one step at a time, one person at a time, one community at a time, right? That's the direction that is the most effective and most impactful. I know that we like the big bang, like let's just come on in, and sometimes those things work. We do protest. Hey, we protest over here, right? And we'll pull up. But it's the everyday actions that collectively add up as well. Okay. The everyday actions that collectively add up as well. So I want you to take the time to go. I put all of them in the chat. Click on related bills. Find out this information. If you have any questions, you need any help, reach out to your MPU delegate. Look on the National Parents Union .org site for information on toolkits, what it is that we have, where's your delegate at, how to find this, how to find that. We also have the polling data. I know that there was a lot of information given about polling data on Looped In with Maritza. Look at that show, breaking down that polling data, right? What does it all mean? Make it make sense, okay? Make it make sense. This is making sense of our time in the most effective way, right? The everyday actions is what we need. Definitely need everyday actions, right? I know some people are tired because of everything that's been happening for the last, it seemed like it's coming from the left, right? It's not going to stop just because you feel like it's time for it to not happen, right? So commit to an action, a daily action. When I say piecing it all together, these three bills make sense, okay? We the people have the ability to advocate in a way that makes sense, okay? Now I'm going to stop sharing that, and because I believe in celebrating, okay? One thing I need to remove. Okay, there we go. I'm gonna add this. Hold on, y'all. Let me pause it. I don't think. Okay, here we go. Woo! I did it. All right. And so, because I believe in celebrating, I made this for you all. And just looking at the California average gas prices, and the weather is gonna be great. And so I thought that the celebration can involve all of you. And so I wanted you to know you are a winner. Pool party is going to be, I told my cousin I was going to share this, and I'm sharing this little pool party at my house tomorrow. I'll bring the pool, because when I saw that, I cracked up. Like, yep, that's the kind of party I'm going to have. You are a winner, though, right? You are. And you have the ability to make small and big wins through your everyday actions, your everyday advocacy, your everyday activism. And so I want you to just celebrate those milestones, and don't be overwhelmed. Take a break when you need it. And then come back, right? And then come back, because our children need the voice, us to be their voices. Our children are relying on our advocacy, on our activism, on our pulling up, to speak up and to speak out and to talk to those involved in the decision-making processes about their lives and their livelihoods. This is not just about academics, y'all. Okay. This is about their upward mobility. This is about their lives and their livelihood. They are relying on us. And I got to say this because I'm starting to get a little perturbed around political dogma and doctrine. Okay. Our children are not born into a political party. Okay. Now, you can celebrate your political party all day. But we're talking about children who are relying on responsible adults to see them for children who need to be protected, who need to be safe, and who need to be able to thrive. And so if your doctrine or your dogma overrules and overrides that, you should challenge your value system and your moral compass. Okay? Don't hit me up in my DMs talking about whatever, because I'm a block. I don't want to hear it unless it's a solution, right? If it's a solution, great. We're talking about children, okay? We're talking about babies that are at the fringes because parents don't know how to get formula. This is a real time of a battle for families and what they're going to happen to their children, okay? We're talking about children that need protecting when they go to school. Okay, I used to be able to walk outside, go to the ice cream truck, and my parents could trust that I was my grandparents too. Okay, we get, here's 50 cents, that we're not in that day and age. Okay, and so be cautious on how you approach these conversations when you're talking about children, and make sure that you view it properly. Excuse me, y'all. Make sure that you view it properly. All right, and so I will leave you with that because I don't want to have to give my long humanitarian speech. If you want to hear that speech, I'm sure I have it on another video another day. Thank you so much for joining me. As always, you can find information again at nationalparentsunion.org. Okay, right here, as you can see. Well, I don't know if you can see it. Let me remove my all have a wonderful weekend. Stay well. I hope that you all thrive. Again, you've been watching Know Your Rights with me, Christina Laster, Director of Policy and Legislation with the National Parents Union. Share this, rewatch it, use the resources. All right, goodbye. See you next Thursday.